Welcome to Modern Motoring. Welcome to the all-new Toyota RAV4. I'm specifically with the Woodland trim, which sits right in the middle. And I did the first drive in Niagara Falls. I believe it was September 2025, but this is my first dedicated week with it. So, usual format, we'll go through a bunch of numbers, perks, quirks, irks, pricing, and competition. So, to get us started, let's go with what all of the non-plug-in hybrid RAV4s get, because those are a completely separate powertrain. So here we have a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder all-wheel drive system. It's got Toyota's 5th gen hybrid system, and it puts out 236 horsepower through an eCVT. On the fuel consumption side, all of the regular hybrid RAV4s run off a 55 liter fuel tank. Depending on the trim, fuel figures go from 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers to 6.2, which is what we have here in the Woodland, meaning you can go between 1,000 and 888 kilometers per full tank, theoretically. Last figure will be cargo space, and Toyota says with the rear seats up, it's 1,070 liters. So let's jump into what makes a Woodland first before we go into the perks, quirks, and irks. So here in the Woodland, it gets 18-inch all-terrain tires, bridge-style roof rails, the rigid LED fog lights, you get a skid plate. Toyota says on their website up to 3,500 pounds of towing, which is technically correct, but all but the base trim also get up to 3,500 pounds of towing. I believe the base trim, the LE, gets, I think, a touch under 2,000. You also get a tow hitch, a 4-pin wire harness, and you get 8.5 inches of ground clearance instead of the 8.1 with all of the non-Woodland trims. Starting on the perk side, there are so many little storage cubbies up front. You get the regular mat pockets, you get the handle for the doors, you get the wireless charging tray to the right. Unless you get the top trim, then you get 2 wireless charging trays, and I guess that kind of could still be storage. There's a bin beneath. There are 2 cup holders with the middle piece being removable for a little extra storage, and you have the very clever dual hinged console lid, which opens to the right, it opens to the left, and it's also reversible. Next up is Toyota Safety System 4.0. Highlights of that include automatic high beams, lane departure alert, lane trace assist, and adaptive cruise control. Not part of the 4.0 system, but still standard, are blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and safe exit assist. Next up is that there are standard LED headlights and tail lamps, and I know we're moving to more of that as standard fare across the board in this class, but I'm happy that Toyota did it for the all-new RAV4. There's a physical spare tire, and that makes me extremely happy, and I know that it saves a little bit of weight when you do the tire repair kit slash tire fill kit, but it's peace of mind that comes with that physical spare tire here, and I'm so happy that Toyota has done it in a day and age where you're trying to squeeze out every last bit of fuel savings. So good job there, Toyota. Next up is that there is a standard drive recorder, also known as a dash cam, and see it on a RAV4, pretty good. I can see the logic behind it. It's their most popular seller, therefore there are the most amount of them on the road, and well, another little peace of mind aspect here with the all-new Toyota RAV4. You get the wireless duo as standard, that being Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Aside from the LE, every other trim gets wireless charging, and on the very top trim, the Limited, you get the 2 wireless charging pads. Next up is the standard 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. I know some of the competition has a housing for a fully digital instrument cluster, but I believe some of them are at that 4.3 TFT screen, and others have the full 12.3, but I like that Toyota made it standard across the board. And maybe it's a cost savings move, but whatever it is, it just elevates the value proposition here. Back to the initial perk of storage space, I forgot to mention that there is a pretty deep passenger shelf in the dashboard, and there's a little raised part so things don't come flying out at your passenger. There's a good amount of space in the rear seats. I can easily fit behind myself, lots of knee space, lots of leg space, foot space, and head space, and I'm just a run-of-the-mill, regular average guy at 5'8", but know that it is a reclinable seat back, so you can have a little bit of extra comfort there for your passengers, at least in the outboard 2 rear seats. A lot of soft touch materials here, especially on the door panel and the dash panel itself. And I think Toyota could have cheaped out and gone with hard plastic, and I'm happy they didn't. And it goes back to the recurring theme here of just a lot of extra value in the value proposition. And the final perk will be on driving dynamics, and this new RAV4 drives quite well. And I had commented on that when I did the initial drive where I drove the plug-in hybrid, the non-Woodland, and the Woodland. And having it for a week just reminds me of how well Toyota's engineers have put this together. It's not exciting. Not by any means, but that's not really what you want a RAV4 for. Now, yes, the GR plug-in hybrid, that is exciting, but here it's a consistent and comfortable drive. I've been in traffic on the highways and traffic on city streets. I'm on back roads now, and it's very responsive. And I know it has 236 horsepower, and Toyota does not publish torque figures, but never an issue with any get up and go here. And as you step down and off you go, and it stays relatively flat for being a compact crossover around twists and turns and corners. And yeah, it gets a little noisy when you stomp down and the gasoline engine kicks in, but that's not a key driver as to what the RAV4 is shooting for. It's just the next logical evolution of the RAV4, where all the things that needed to be elevated and lifted and fine-tuned and refined itself have been done. And on the driving dynamics side, it's been excellent. Now, I usually don't put turn signals on in the video because it just messes with the audio, but I am going to keep it on here as I make a right turn and just give you an audio and light acceleration test. And 70. So again, it's not quick, a little loud, but it does it with enough urgency. So whether you're trying to avoid a collision, or if you need to just stomp down and get a little bit of extra oomph from the engine, this 5th gen hybrid system works exceptionally well. On to the Quirk side of things, and this Woodland has this blocky, squared off grille, whereas the other ones have a mesh grille. I know you got to separate things a little bit from the Woodland trim versus the others. I think it's a pretty stark contrast because I think the non-Woodlands have a little bit of elegance to it. Next up is that it's hybrid only, and that I think will appeal to a lot of people, but as with anything, it won't be for everybody, and some people might be turned off by it because they want the gasoline only, and I don't care for hybrids and whatnot. But whether you like it, whether you don't, this is the way that Toyota's moving forward. The 2-phone wireless charging system, I don't think I've seen that in a mainstream vehicle, especially not at this price point to date. So sure, it could be a perk, but I'm gonna put it in the quirk pile that Toyota is offering that. Here is the last one. As I was going through the spec sheet on Toyota's website, at least in Canada, there is no low washer fluid warning on the base LE trim. And it's just a peculiar thing to not have included on a base model of all things. I just figured that would be something that is just standard across the board. Onto the Irks pile, and there's only one real one that I think will impact consumers. And I know some people might get mad at me by saying, Jay, what do you mean there's only one thing that you find wrong with this vehicle? I'm looking big picture, and I'll get this again and do a longer road trip instead of the regular week-long test drive. But my irk here is that Toyota put the HVAC controls into the screen, and I wish they didn't. There are physical buttons for your front defroster, your rear defroster, and to adjust the temperature higher or lower. But fan speed and direction of air and the auto and the heated seats and the cooled seats, available cooled seats and the heated steering wheel and the sync functions are all through the screen. And I wish Toyota wouldn't have done that. One last comment on the Irks side for the HVAC controls being on the screen. I don't know if it's going to be a massive buying decision factor. I think it'll play in a little bit for as good as this new RAV4 is, but we've been overloaded with screens for the past few years, and yes, we're making a small comeback to physical-based HVAC controls. So I think if you really dislike having the HVAC controls be on the screen, and you just don't use the auto setting, and yes, there's some people out there like that, then yeah, the RAV4 might slip down a couple of places on your buying list. But that's really the only thing I see impacting consumers. Everything else is not quite par for the course, but it's predictable Toyota. It looks like it's well built. And I say looks like because it's only been a couple of months. We don't have long-term information yet. But the interior looks good and it feels good and all the things are in all the right places, except for the HVAC controls. There's lots of storage. It feels good to drive. Good cargo space, good fuel figures. So everything else checks out. But I just wanted to add a little more context to what may be something that impacts a buying decision. So let's take a quick look at my sheet here as we do the pricing and competition. So on the pricing side, these are your Canadian figures for MSRPs. I did 3 of them, the base LE, the middle Woodland, and the top limited. Then I threw in the base plug-in hybrid. So $37,500 for the LE, $47,000 for what we have here, the mid-trim Woodland, and all the way at the top is the limited at $52,000. Now there's an XLE with a package, and there's the XSE with a package as well. So your overall range for the self-charging hybrid is going from $37,500 all the way up to $52,000. The plug-in hybrid starts at $48,750, so a little more than what we have here in the Woodland trim. There's a lot of competition out here, and I'm just going to rhyme them off, and I will let you know the 4 that have a off-road-esque-ish kind of trim to it. So right off the top, the Honda CR-V, and they have the Trail Sport. Hyundai has the Tucson. Kia Sportage has the X-Line. Subaru has the Forester, which is off-roady to begin with, but there's also a wilderness trim. Nissan's Rogue has a Rock Creek trim. Mitsubishi Outlander, Ford Bronco Sport, all-new Mazda CX-5, Volkswagen Tiguan, GMC Terrain, and the Chevrolet Equinox. I think people, if they want a RAV4, they're just going to get it. They don't care what I have to say or many of what other reviews out there say. And that's a great testament to Toyota. Again, the best-selling vehicle in Canada, made in Ontario, assembled in Ontario. And it's just, it's the benchmark. And this is what consumers are saying. And then you throw in Toyota's wildly high reliability scores for years and years and years and years, and it's going to be tough for the competition to keep pace with the all-new RAV4. Let me know what you think out there about the all-new generation for the RAV4. Do you think it's going to keep its place at the top? Or do you think one of the competitors, that's 3 flubs, or do you think one of the competitors that I've listed might overtake it? I invite you to join the Modern Motoring social media platforms. We are on all of the major ones. I am on all of the major ones. And without you, there is no Modern Motoring. So I thank you, I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.